up to a couple minutes ago.
Hello, good evening, everyone. So we're just giving persons a few more minutes to join so we can get to have a live interaction with Oswald, our speaker for today. So hang tight.
I can't even speak to that, but sometimes I feel
Aldin, check your WhatsApp for me 1 second.
they said you wouldn't make it survive. Ever since they said it's been hard, but never mind the night you had to cry, 'cause you can never let it go. It's work too hard, you know exactly what you want and need, so
Okay, guys, just give us a couple more minutes. Mhm. Okay, guys, let's begin. So welcome one and all to our second installation of the crash course in Flutter. Hope you guys have gone through the first presentation, and this is going to be our second. We're going to have a third coming up, so also be on the lookout for that. Now, our community, we are a community of developers. So whether it's just software developers, engineers, lab technicians, anyone that is involved in technology, we simply welcome you to join our community to simply build and market your skills, learn and share your knowledge, because it's all about learning. There's going to be some skills that you have that would be essential to helping someone else grow. And also there's going to be some skills that some other persons may have that are going to help you grow as an individual. Because no two persons are alike and no two persons think exactly the same. So even with simply doing advertising, doing digital marketing, recognize that a group of persons can have the same challenge and each of them create something unique and special. So there's always an opportunity for each and every one of us to learn from each other, learn good things from each other. All right. So feel free to join our community so you can develop your skills and grow. All right. Unfortunately, we're having some amount of technical difficulty. So we're going to go into some amount of discussion to get to know a few of you guys, even that it's just a few of you, can give each of you an opportunity just to explain what it is that what brings you into technology and something fun about yourself. I'm going to throw O'Shane Williams on spot. O'Shane, go ahead. Shane? Shane is a bit quiet. All right, let's go with Kamari.
All right, so hi everyone, I'm O'Shane Bailey. I'm one of the community managers. So what we're just doing is giving Oswald a bit of time to set up. So as Aldin had mentioned, we're just doing a quick round table. It's just a quick introduction who you are, interest in tech, and something fun about yourself. So for me, O'Shane Bailey. I tend to be the white one amongst my group, somewhat the short one as well, although Alden is shorter. So I feel good time to time. Main interest software development, and I have a passion when it comes on to web development. And soon switch over to doing more AI application based. So yeah, that's a quick you know thing about me. Pass on the button to someone. Kamari. Can you do a quick introduction of yourself, if you don't mind? And you can unmute and just do an introduction.
Okay, no problem. Thanks, O'Shane. Guys, hear me clearly?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, wonderful. So Kamari Bedward, programmer analyst at Sagicor. The main technology that focusing on right now, the job capacity is .NET and ESB technology called MuleSoft. I do some Oracle database work as well. Yeah, those are the main things that I'm looking at right now, the job capacity. On my own though, I'm doing some development using the Flutter. I started using it during the pandemic, so around 2020. Worked on a little trading application that I used to help assist with my trading at the time. And now I'm looking into working on a sort of a social media type application. Fun thing for me is basically traveling, and I love cologne fragrances, so I do collect a lot of them. Yeah, that's it for me.
Kamari, while I fix the technical issues on my side, I have to. You're a .NET guy. This is classic .NET or .NET Core.
Right now it's .NET Core, so I'm using Blaze on .NET Core.
Okay, and Blazor is I think the web application framework for .NET Core, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm asking these questions because in my day job, I'm pretty.
Hello?
Yeah, man, I'm hearing you. You running any cloud services?
No, not as if.
I see. Okay.
We're making the move towards cloud currently, but no.
Okay. And for your you mentioned you're doing some trading. That's stock trading?
Oh no, well the market has been down for a while, so I've been
trust me, I know.
shifting my focus. But I built an application, mobile app that assisted me during the time. But it was mainly for my own personal use. It was not published because I was doing some, I guess, unethical thing to get the data from the JTrader. So
hold on. This is recorded. Be careful what you say.
I didn't say what that thing was. Well, yeah.
And better unethical than illegal. If it's anything illegal, let's just leave that part out.
Right. But I've abandoned that right now because I was using that free technology at the time. I don't remember, but since they started charging Heroku, since they abandoned it and started charging, I just stopped that whole thing and move on to another project.
I see. How are you doing the scraping for of the JC's data? Because I've written scrapers in the past before, like for I think I did one for Yellow Pages years ago to help pay my school fee. Actually, long story.
Oh, I used Dart at first, and then I switched to using a Python script.
Okay, with LXML or Beautiful Soup.
Beautiful Soup.
Yeah, good memories. Good memories. Yeah, I had to learn about XPath expressions and the whole thing. Yeah, fun times. Fun
Yep.
time. Okay. So no more. So you put on trading for now.
For now, yeah. I try probably I just build it up and hopefully ads and something I can make some money. But trading is not going anywhere right now.
Yeah, the market has been done. But I have to ask though, like, because I am a Sagicor customer, and you guys have something that is supposed to be an app, but not really. What going for that, boss?
Something is coming.
Something is coming like 3 years from now, or like by the end of the year.
Not by the end of the year, but something is coming. It's in the pipeline.
Yeah.
We are aware. It's a sore point for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Once you're coming in on the pipeline, spoken like a true politician, no boss.
It's coming, man.
Uh,
Don't
but-
worry about it. It's
So,
gonna come good as well. It's gonna come good.
all right, we're glad to hear that.
Yeah,
And that will be in that's gonna be built in Flutter.
no. I wish it was because I would have been involved in all of that, but no.
Okay. And this is an external team building it, or like you an internal Sagicor team?
It's a collaborative approach.
I see. Okay. Local talent or external?
Yeah?
All right. As well, we don't want to get out
It's a
all of the
collaborative
secrets.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's give someone
Yeah,
else a chance to.
Indeed.
Yeah, man.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Kamar. Thanks as well. All right.
Mhm.
So let's ask, is that Hood? Kadian? Like to go ahead? Okay, so unfortunately, we're still having some challenges. Giving Oswald a chance to set up because I'm guessing he has something really fabulous to show us, and unfortunately, the computer decided to act up. So we're giving persons an opportunity just to unmute. Tell us a little about yourself. As we've said before, you know, we are a community of developers, of computer scientists, a community of persons like-minded. So this is an opportunity for us to build and market our skills and essentially grow a network with each other. So. Andrew Phillips, you want to go ahead? Just a quick intro, fun fact about yourself. Yes, we have a lot of shy persons. I guess we need to do a presentation on presenting and engaging persons and stepping out of your comfort zone. All right, let's go Malik Edwards. You want to just unmute and tell us a quick introduction about yourself? Hi.
All right. Hey guys. For Shane again. To give us more time and because the shyness of everyone. So let's just do this instead. All right. So how much of us give like a raise up on how much of us like use Flutter for like developing mobile app in production or just you did a little thing to try it out. Can you get a list of on how much of you used Flutter before? You can use the list and feature on Zoom. So I see myself, okay. R3, cool. Kamari, that's nice. We know Oz are there using Flutter. Kadeen, cool. Um, what about Malik and O'Shane Williams? You guys use Flutter? All right. Next question. All right. Have any of you used Flutter with like, because today is about API RESTful integration. Have any of you used Flutter with external API, for example, Firebase, or use you just connect it to some like open database, or you pretty much do a setup on of your own MySQL database and just connect it with Flutter. Any of you use external or even internal APIs? Raise a hand. Okay, Kaden. Okay, Kamari. Well, yeah, that thing you talked about earlier would definitely use the RESTful API. All right, cool. So the big question now, because we find that a lot of individuals, even outside of the realms of Flutter, tend to not do this type of activity often. How much of you will actually write tests for the Flutter application you wrote, or even in general?
Wait, when you say test, what do you mean?
Yeah, for example, unit test, integration test, or any form of test for the mobile app you built.
Okay.
Okay, don't say anyone raised their hand, including myself. Quite interesting. Funnily, the next event will be on testing. We're getting someone to present on that. Yeah, so that would definitely be interesting, especially because I don't, based on like what I've seen for a lot of application that I've reviewed, there's not a lot of focus on test driven development for Flutter. So I definitely look forward in seeing that presentation to see how much individuals who are interested in writing tests after that presentation. But overall though, apart from, Flutter, anyone generally write tests, like for other languages or projects they worked on? Raise a hand. I can raise my hand now because I mostly use Laravel, and I tend to write tests for that application. Okay, cool. 3 persons so far. Nice. All right. Oz, are you ready on your side? Or you
Not quite. Having some problem putting down dependencies from the Flutter the central package repository, which was working fine up to half an hour ago. But as Murphy's law goes, yeah.
Oh, okay. I guess there's two things, guys. This happens in the development world. The second thing is ours is using a MacBook, and we all know that
Here we
Macs
go.
tend to give problems now and then.
Who said
But
it's a
I
Mac
mean,
problem?
so
This is here, you know. Mm.
I mean, you know, it happens. It happens.
Oh boy.
All
Yeah.
right.
For those of you who've used Flutter before, yeah, Flutter Create is pretty much it's gone. It's 4 minutes in already, and still not resolving dependencies. So something has gone catastrophically wrong right here, which is weird because I've been in Android Studio all day, and even after a restart, we're having issues. Murphy's Law.
Okay, so Oz, in cases like this, what's the general process of debugging and going through to pinpoint like an issue to then get it resolved? So in essence, we could spin this around into a Flutter debugging.
I'm game. I'm game for that. So it depends on what the particular error is, because so the previous project I was working on, that one opens, but when trying to create the new project for the for this actual session, that's where it freezes. I say Kadena mentioned something in the chat about invalidating the caches. I did that, but still having the issue. And what's weird is that when I did a restart, and certain things that normally restart in my Mac dock aren't here, which is something I've never seen before either. So we're having it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. And because I'm an Android studio man, so I don't have VS Code set up for Flutter development at all. Yeah, my whole workflow is based on Android Studio. Kadane, what IDE have you been using?
So is it possible for you to be able to walk us through, like, the errors on the screen and maybe something that we can learn from? So in the event that one of us experience this, we know how to handle it.
That might be a good idea. All right, so let me rejoin on my computer. I'm talking through my phone right now. Give me a second. All right, back on my computer. Aldin, can you hear me? All right, perfect. All right, so let's attempt this once more, and then I'll share my screen. Right, let's launch this. Let's clear that cache again.
Um. Okay. I was just about to ask if you're having problems with the Mac and sharing screen. Okay. All right. I'm not a Mac hater. It's just that I just like to throw a Mac. Just saying. Oz, if you're talking, we're not hearing you. You're muted.
Oh, you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, man, I'm saying that Fisher Price Chromebook that you have, I know it gives all sorts of problems too.
Oh, wow. Firstly, I'm not using any Chromebook anymore.
Oh, you upgraded. Look at you. I like
Yeah,
this. This is
yes.
growth.
This laptop of 64 gig of RAM and that Chromebook from before, it works and it works well. Didn't have much issues.
Ah, not from what I remember. Mm.
What you remember is only like if I open like an extra 10 tabs could use up to what 64 Chrome tabs, which is more than like the average even average Mac can anchor. So
Oh, really? Really? Is that so?
that's a joke. That's a joke.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I was gonna put some money on it. All right, so let's try creating this project now. You guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right, so mm, okay, so there's a particular thing here that shows when it's creating the project, a little dialogue, but it's on another screen, and so that's where we've been freezing. Hmm. Is Jeopardy still on TV? I know the Wheel of Fortune guy retired recently.
I believe Jeopardy is still on TV, but let's do a quick Google.
Be interested to know. This is actually. Let me fix my sharing. Yes, so it's still stuck on creating Flutter projects. So this is so it's failing both via the IDE as well as via the command line when you use the Flutter create command. Let's see what's happening. All right, so let's go back to basics from my sysadmin days. There's an old joke in as a sysadmin that the problem is always DNS. So let's test that. That basic Googling can work, or better yet, where's my terminal? Here we have iTerm. And let me share this one again. All right, so there's sub one. So let me share my main screen. All right, so simple connectivity tests. So we know DNS works. Good. There we go. All right, so let me go to my code folder. The doctor -v. So the Flutter doctor command gives you a diagnosis of a Flutter setup. So let's see what it's reporting. All right, version 3.7, good. Android toolchain, good. Xcode is good. Unable to find bundled Java version. Yeah, that's always there. That error we got because a few versions ago, JetBrains actually bundles a version of the Java SDK within their IDEs, and I don't think Mac itself has caught up to it, but it's not a real issue. Connected devices.
Is it the latest version of Flutter?
So
Wait, what?
right now this is 3.7. Well, I use FVM. Let's switch to 3. That give me a sec here. Let's use FVM Global 3.10.
Wait, are we in a debugging session?
Pretty much.
Wait, oh, your Mac crashed?
Crash is such a horrible word. I don't like. Who is this? Of course, it's
Well,
Andrew.
it's tough on your Mac crashed.
Wow. Okay. All right. Listen, I'll take it. But listen, The next time you say about your window manager and Linux stop working, please believe we're not gonna make you hear the NIT in a bus.
No, even though my window manager stopped, my app still worked. I just had to restart the window manager and everything is fine again. So I don't know. But so what's going on? So Flutter just stopped working or what?
So yeah, we can't create new Flutter projects.
Early, but I wasn't listening. So
yeah, we can't create new Flutter projects.
Oh. Can't create new projects. Reinstall the entire framework. Because like that's something that's going to be really hairy to debug.
Well, hey, that's what we're doing right now. So let's try Flutter Create again. So we're in the latest version, Flutter 3.10.1. So let's try Flutter Create rest crash.
So Oswald, do you have any existing project that is working that uses API that you could maybe walk us through? Given that this one is
wait. I think this
if it's all in Flutter, then you won't really be able to show anything unless it's already compiled. Then you could just walk through that. But otherwise, this seems like a dead thing to me personally.
Well, let's see. I think something just.
So yeah, we're doing a debug presentation of whole. But I can't really see how to debug a Flutter framework. So it's just a matter of reinstalling the whole thing, I guess.
Let's see. Close this one. Let's open a project. And we want code. Let me just create rest crash course. Oh, that's another one. Give me 1 second here. All right, so we should have one here called API course. Good. Try opening that up. All right. This looks like some progress. Let's launch our simulator. Open up window here. All right, now let's run this boy. The iPhone 14, good. Let's run him. All right, so this is progress. You know, funny as I'm going through this, reminds me of something I had to debug at work the last week, and it really took us the entire week. And that was, yeah, it was between on-prem versus something going on in the cloud that was interacting with a third-party API that lacked proper documentation and proper HTTP error return codes. Yeah, that was not fun. But it was good when they cracked the case. Can see
Yeah,
that?
it's building now. Yeah, it's building.
Huh?
This looks like it's building now, right?
It looks so, yeah. All right, so let's go this building. We're looking good. All right. I think we're just about in business now. All right. Delayed but not denied. All right, so let me just put things in their proper place to this side. And then we can jump right into it. Okay, that's our file there. You go there. And here we are. All right, by the way, folks, the screen I'm showing right now is a very wide screen monitor. Is it compressed on your view, or this is good? Works for everybody?
Well, you can see all
Yes,
of
it
the
works.
window as well as the emulator. So
Okay.
scroll.
Let's admit them. All right, so Aldin, I think we're in business. I think we're at the point right now, I think, where we can pretty much skip the introductions and go right into it. So as far as introductions go, I'll say I'm Oswald Smith, and I can now say that I've proven to you that I'm a certified Flutter debugging expert. If your Flutter app not launching or cannot create, you call us and we'll fix it. You have better call Saul, this is better call us. So,
All right.
oh my son, oh my son. So let's go right into it. So guys, so today we're looking at for the Crash Course 2, we're talking about APIs, how to interface with APIs from your Flutter app, how to display some of that data. And I want to also cover a few patterns that you'll see more on production level ready apps. So the approach I want to take right here is that we're going to start off from the basic Flutter demo homepage app that you're seeing on your screen and that you would get if you created a brand new Flutter project. And then we're going to start, throwing a few requests over to an API, getting that data over, parsing it, playing around with it a little bit more, and refactoring as we go along. All right. At any point, feel free to stop and ask questions, and I'll also do my best to stop at regular intervals to make sure that that we can get some questions that you can ask any questions that you may have. All right. So in terms of the data set that we'll be using, it's going to be a matter near and dear to my heart. That is the subject of curfews. I mean, so COVID is behind us now. At least that's the way I've been living. But you all remember during COVID, we had these nightly curfews. So the Prime Minister would come on TV and tell us, hey, everybody needs to be off the road by this time, and we can't come out again until sometime the next morning. So give me 1 second here. Let me just bring up this. Where are we? Right. So the first thing I want us to consider is, how are we going to be modeling our data? So think about it. A curfew is really just a set of times. It starts at a particular time and ends at a particular time. Now, the nature of curfews are that they are mostly nightly. So it's going to pretty much start in the night on one day and end in the morning on the next day. So pretty much what our data model is going to look like is pretty much just two fields: the start time for your curfew and the end time for your curfew. So I've created a little mock API that pretty much represents that. We've put in a few dates in JSON format. Actually starting with today. starting today or maybe tomorrow. Right. So it's about 9 or 10 dates. So we have our API here that's going to be returning the next 10 curfew dates and times in JSON format. All right. So at the very first, let's start off and see how we can actually start to make HTTP requests. So in order to do that, you'll want to go to our pubspec.yaml file and add the HTTP package. So we're going to put that in right here below Cupertino icons. So that's HTTP : and then we want to run pub-get. All right, so I think we're all set. And so right here in main, let's import it right here in main so we can use it. Give me a second here. So that's import http.dart. I like a little syntactic sugar as HTTP. All right. So we can remove some of all this sample code. Let's get rid of that and that. And right here as well. Now, if you recall from the app that we started working with the last time, it was pretty much a case where we had this button to the bottom right here, and when you pressed it, it called a function that would increment this counter, and that counter would go up. So just for demonstration purposes, let's repurpose this button to pretty much to call a function that's going to make an HTTP request, and we see what that would look like. So give me a second right here. What do we have? Finder. All right, here we are. All right, good. So right now the unpressed is calling increment counter. So let's find that function. The increment counter is doing counter plus plus right now. So hey, let's do something else. We are going to use HTTP to get our stuff done. All right, so let's call it Actually, let's just write a different function altogether for this one. I will call it get curfew data. Now, for those of you who are familiar with JavaScript, I think you probably are familiar with the concept of promises in JavaScript. So, I mean, I'm not a JavaScript developer, but I understand it works pretty much the same way that certain operations are asynchronous. So when you run them, it's pretty much it pretty much happens outside of the main thread of execution. So within Dart, certain operations and so like for example, network access, file IO, and so are also asynchronous. So it follows that same sort of async await pattern. So, but in JavaScript, what's called a future, it's called a promise, but in Dart, it's called a future. So we're going to write a function that returns a future when we call it. So let's do that now. So here's the function signature. So it's future.
Just one question
Sure.
we have so far. So what does the as HTTP descriptor do? Does it like attach a library to a variable? That's a question that we have in the chat so far.
So let me see now. I think it's kind of similar to in Python. It's been such a habit so long. I think what happens here is that it's pretty much syntactic sugar that you can say as HTTP. So going forward, you can refer to pretty much that entire library as HTTP dot whatever method. I will do a follow-up check on that though, because it's become second nature to me at this point. I think in Python there's something there's a similar pattern. And great question, by the way. All right. So where was our function? Good. So it's a future that's going to return an HTTP response. HTTP dot response. Okay. We're not getting our autocomplete. Let's see what's happening there. We did get our dependencies. Oh, we'll get to that. So get curfew data. All right, so it's as simple as so making the actual request is going to be as simple as this. So we can say var response is equal to http get, and then the get method for the http package requires URIs to be well formed. So we'll use URI dot parse, and then we'll actually put in the URL to the API endpoint. So this will be a string, and we'll want that. Okay, good. So just to test it out, let's print what that response is. Oh, we need a return. Let's see. What will we return here? So let's reload our app. If we hit the button, oh no, the button is we need to override this to call get curfew data instead. There we go. And we'll do a hot reload. Now let's ensure that we can see our console. And if we hit this, so notice what's happening here. We're getting an instance of a future of type HTTP response, which is what it promises. But of course, at the end of the day, we don't want a future. We want the actual data. So what's happening there is that we need to instruct Flutter that, hey, do not return anything until you actually get back the data. So what we'll do here, we'll say var response equal await until you do that. And because we're awaiting something, we have to declare this function as an async function as follows. So now let's run that again and hit the button. Okay, so now we're getting an instance of response. So now we're not getting the future response, we're getting the actual response. Now an HTTP response and usual request, they will have a header, a body, and other things. So what we really want here is to see what the response body looks like. And let's take a look at that. So let's hot reload. I'll use the keyboard shortcut this time. And press this to trigger it. Good. And we see our JSON data coming in right now. So it's the same data model that we mentioned, except that now we have an ID for each of the entries. So there's an end time and a start time, or well, a start time and an end time, but the API is returning it, I suppose, in some form of alphabetical order here. So making the actual HTTP request is as simple as that. So you'll want a HTTP package, and then you'll await, and it's http.get URI.parse and your URI. And it's that simple. So it pretty much follows the same pattern for other HTTP verbs such as post, put, and patch, and so on. So it really is that simple to do that. So now we have some JSON there's some JSON data right here, but of course, we don't want to work with directly like this. Eventually, when you're working with APIs, you're going to want to pretty much parse it into into a proper Dart object. So let's see what that's going to look like. So let's create a class for that. Where's the Dart file? And we'll actually create it in a directory called models. So models / curfew data. What am I doing? Curfew data. And you'll notice the underscore because the naming convention in Dart for file names is that you separate them by using an underscore. let's create that. I prefer working with a split screen. So here we go, the class curfew data. All right, so let's create the class that's going to, a dark class that is going to represent what this looks like. So it's class curfew data. And what are we looking at here? So there's an integer for the ID. So final int ID. There is a start time and an end time. So final date time, start time. And let's just duplicate that. And this is going to be the end time. Now we're going to want to generate a constructor. In Android Studio, you can use a shortcut, which is the command button and N, and the constructor. You select all the fields that you want in the constructor, and voila, it will generate that for us. But I want to make these named parameters just because I like that. So within the constructor here, we'll enclose the arguments in curly braces, and we'll add the required keyword. Required, and required. Good. Now let's format this. Actually, I like when they're all on their separate lines. Just seems a bit cleaner to me. Good. So this is what our curfew data class would look like. There we go. However, how are we going to be pretty much constructing these curfew data objects? We're going to be doing that. We're going to be doing it using the JSON response that we're getting the API. So we want to put in we want to do another constructor that will give us the that will take that JSON and create the curfew data. So we can create a factory constructor for that. So we're going to call this curfew data dot from JSON. Give me a second here. Where were we? Oh, no, I wanted this flashing. In the meantime, anyone has any questions about what we're doing so far?
Well, I'm not seeing any questions on the chat, so I'm guessing so far everything is clear.
All right, perfect. So just give me 1 second here. All right, so let's create the factory constructor. So from JSON, and it's going to take in that JSON data and return the curfew data object. Actually, let's do it that way, and because they're required parameters, so ID is going to be JSON with the key of ID, and then start time is going to be the JSON object with the wrong one with the key of start time. And of course, let's just duplicate that for end time. And that's where we'll go. So we have our curfew data object. We have a constructor and we have a factory constructor that will parse the JSON data that we receive from our curfew data endpoint and into a curfew data object. Now, I want to pause for a second here and point out something. A while ago, I was creating this from JSON method. Now, as far as endpoints go, this is pretty much a simple endpoint. It's pretty much just 3 fields. Now, imagine if you're working in like a huge production app and like you're returning a user object. User's first name, last name, address line 1, line 2, date of birth, this, that. Sometimes you'll see objects with 20, 25, 30 fields. If you were to go through and actually have to type out all of this by hand, 1, your fingers are going to be tired. 2, you're gonna get very frustrated, and 3, you're pretty much gonna make mistakes. There's absolutely no question about that. So the Flutter ecosystem does have some solutions for that. A popular one, which we won't go into a lot of depth on that today, is a package called JSON Serializer. And so pretty much what you do after defining just the fields, we would add some annotations, and then we will say, okay, we want a from JSON method and a to JSON method, and it will go through and automatically create all of that for you. Now that leverages something in the Flutter ecosystem called the build runner. So pretty much what you would do after creating those annotations, you would invoke the build runner, and it would automatically go through and create those from JSON and to JSON methods for you, and pretty much include them as a part of this file. So if you're going to be working in Flutter, particular bigger apps, look out for JSON serializer and JSON annotation packages. You're going to be seeing a lot of those going forward, and learn to use the build runner. But once you do it once or twice, it's pretty easy to get the hang of it. All right. So here we are now with our curfew data class and our from JSON JSON constructor. So back in our app now, let's see if we can start loading some data into here. Let's make a few changes. So like this is saying where are we? My homepage see this include material. What is this complaining about? Oh no, that's fine. Flutter in my homepage. So let's just change this to curfew data. Yeah, none of them state that build. Build. I was something missing here. The build method is here, or is it this is all right. We're back onto we're in another debugging session now. I think page good. That ends there. And this ends. Are we missing an ending brace? It appears so. Let me see something real quick. There we go. We're missing one of those. So in fact, let me rebuild this. On press, get a few data. We're doing a whole lot of debugging today, aren't we? Oh, yep, you're going through the ringer right now.
And that's why I don't like curlies.
Listen,
so trying to do like reformat and hopefully it shows you exactly where it breaks or something.
Listen, remember, we're both Python guys, so I know exactly where you're coming from.
Where did you declare the function?
What's that?
Where did you declare the function?
Give me a sec. So we have it here. It's gonna be removed soon. Wait, what's happening here? No, this is it's falling within increment counter. Yeah. Tell you what. We need to get it out of that. And I think we should be good now. All right. So we're in business. Do we have format here? Yeah. Let's clean it up a little bit. And if we press, let's see, everything here is still working. Good. And we're getting our data in from our API. All right. So now here we are. We have this method get curfew data that when called returns a future of a HTTP response, and we can see it printed here on the console. But of course, it doesn't have that much use to us within the console. We need to start getting this thing in the app on screen where we can display it, because after all, we need to know when the curfew time is, or else you gotta go open at the truck. I've had some friends that happened to actually, and someone they were at a bar somewhere in New Kingston, I won't say where, and the police came and raided it. Between us, the bar was actually owned by a policeman, but don't tell anybody that I said that. And they raided it, and he and another friend of mine, they had to hide under a mango tree in the trunk of a car. It's a whole thing. Yeah, when he called me the next morning, I'm like, bro, why didn't they invite me out? I would have loved to be a part of it, but hey. All
Uh,
right.
okay, us. We'll edit this out of the clip.
Oh, Tadarica. I mean, is there a statute of limitations and on curfew violation?
Not that I know of.
I should hope so. I should certainly hope so. All right. So let's look at what's happening here. So we have a list. We have a list, pretty much a JSON array of curfew data objects. So what so in looking at that, what we really see is that get curfew data shouldn't just should really we wanted to return a list of all of these that we can then put into our app. So I think at this point we can probably put in another we can do another refactoring. So instead of having this code that's talking to the API wrapped up here in your main.dart and everything, let's move that out somewhere in the same way that we moved out curfew, that the curfew data class into its own file. So let us create another file. We're looking for Dart file. Good. And we put in a folder called repository and call it, say, my spelling is off there. We'll call it curfew data repository. Good. And so the idea here is that our UI code is here in main.dart, and you really never want your UI code to be tangled up with your API access code. And pretty much, I think at this point it's probably a good time to talk about app structures. Now, in any type of programming, whether you're a front end or a back end guy, we're all familiar with the concept of layering. Some take it as far as things like domain-driven design, where you have your bounded context and ubiquitous language. But even if you don't go to that level of depth and granularity, just simple things as, hey, in a mobile app, you're pretty much going to have your presentation layer, which are the actual things you're seeing on screen. Then you might have a business logic layer below that, or some people might call it your domain layer. And then your domain layer talks to your data layer, or some might call it a repository layer. You might hear terms thrown around like MVC, MVVM, and people have their own personal preferences. Personally, I don't think there is any one right way, and pretty much you can experiment with all of them and see which one works for you. For the purposes of this app, we just want to show some basic separation of UI code from your actual data access code. So we're going to put the repository over here in its own file and remove this data from over here. So let's create our repository. Give me 1 second. All right. So let's create a new class and we call it curfew data repository. And so the idea here is that anybody that wants curfew data will ask the repository for it, right? So this curfew data repository is going to have a function called get curfew data. And so we're going to be removing this out of main. I'm putting it here. So of course, we'll need to do our HTTP import on this side instead. And we're going to want to parse the data into our Dart objects here as well, so that when you call get curfew data, you're not just getting the raw JSON back. You're getting that list of Dart objects. So let's import that model file. Import will you pick it up? Curfew data. Let's call it models. / curfew data.dart. Perfect. All right. So now let us go into actually getting this thing in. Give me 1 second here. All right. So we want to be able to parse this into into Dart objects. So let's look at what that is going to look like. So we have our response equal that. So let's do this. We want final data is equal to, we're going to decode the JSON using JSON decode, which is pretty much built into it's a part of the Dart convert package, which just got imported automatically. And we will want the response, and particularly the body of the response. We're going to cast that into a map. And the Dart map is it might be called a dictionary or associative array in other languages. Pretty much just a mapping between keys and values. So we want a map. Actually, and the map, we need to specify it as a map from string to dynamic. Good, and then that data now, we're going to convert that to a list. So that's, we want to return, we'll get rid of these soon enough. There's going to be, let's see if I remember the syntax, data dot map. We're mapping curfew data. And we're taking whatever JSON that would be coming in. JSON. And we want a little arrow function here. And this is where we're going to use our curfew data. And we're going to use our from JSON constructor that we created earlier. It's curfew data dot from JSON. And then we can convert that to list. Now something's a bit wrong here. We have one extra that we don't need. I think something, we have that. Okay, it's all here. All right. I think we have that. All right, at this point, anybody have any questions about any of the syntax or what exactly we're trying to accomplish right here? Andrew, you want a Mac to buy?
No, never.
We're gonna
I'm
bring you
looking
to
at that error though. What's that error about?
This error here?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something in main.dart that we're gonna fix soon because it's calling for something that isn't there right now. Because it's asking for it's looking for curfew data, but curfew data has been moved from main.dart. It's looking for get curfew data, but that's been moved from main over into the repository file.
Oh, okay.
But because it's watching it and trying to compile it all the time, so you get those intermediate errors.
Okay. Cool.
All right, so I think we're good here. All right, so we have that. Now let's remove some of this placeholder text from the counter app that's in main.dart. So for example, let's see what we're doing right here. You have push this button. We don't need this. Let's get rid of that. Actually, we can get rid of a lot of this. There's a column, center. I think we can get rid of this entire column. And in the center, what we actually want, I think we want a list view. I already have the child parameter there. So we will want a list view. The comma. Good. We still have that. Put an action button. But just for the purposes of ensuring that we have the UI cleaned up. Okay, good. So we have that all out. And in fact, we might not even need that. Okay, so we pretty much have a blank, we have a blank canvas right here. Our curfew data. I hate the purple because I hate all things Kingston College, even though my younger brother was head boy there. But the family forgives him. Nobody's perfect. But I think when you create a sample Flutter project now using material 3, it uses this purple hue as pretty much what's called the seed color, from which it's gonna much create a color scheme. Of course, we can change that, but I'll let the little KC boys have their day today. Anybody any KC past student is on this con right now? If they are, Alden, feel free. Oshane Williams. Okay, Alden, can you disconnect him from the call, please? But I suppose Oshane Bailey won't like that because it's his namesake. Right, Oshane?
Would.
So you would?
Okay, let me get my popcorn.
Or you're tuning in for the movie. All right, that works. That definitely works. All right. So let's recap where we are so far. We have our nice little endpoint giving us our curfew data. We have pretty much a blank canvas right here. We have our curfew data model that's a Dart object, a plain Dart object representing what the curfew data looks like, and the curfew data repository that is supposed to return a list, of curfew objects, which also means I need to change the function signature for get curfew data here. So instead of returning http.response, what we want is that it's going to return a list of curfew data objects. There we go. Get our generics in place, right? Because we did say to list right here. All right. So how do we get from having a list of data objects to making an HTTP call and showing it on screen right here? I want to introduce you to an object, a Flutter widget called Future Builder. Now, all that does, it means is that it takes a future, in this case, or get curfew data, and then once the future is completed, it builds it builds some part of a user interface based on the results of that future. All right. So we're going to use that future builder in this part of the screen here to start showing some data on screen. So right here, so instead of the list view, I think the child we want here is a future builder. Good. Now, let's mouse over the future builder to see the API. The most important thing it takes is the actual future, and then a builder method that describes what UI we're going to build with that future. So the future here is going to be, we need to import the repository here, the curfew data repository. And it's curfew data repository.dart. And then within my homepage state, okay, so let's say let's initialize our repository to a curfew data repository. Good. Which is over here, which we know returns a future of a list, list of curfew data. So the future we're passing to the future builder is going to be repository dot get curfew data. And now we also need a builder method that's going to take a build context. Let's call it context. Give me one sec here. Right. Excuse me. Give me a second, please. Sorry about that. There's a lot of noise in my background, so I'm just waiting. There's a truck outside. I'm just waiting to pass. So give me another 30 seconds, please.
We're actually not here in the truck though, Oz, so we can proceed.
All right, here we go. Yeah, thanks for that. All right, so we're in our future builder. That's going to take the future return from the get curfew data function repository call. And now we want a builder. So we want a context. And what's the signature for this again? I think it's builder. No, I don't think that's quite right. Not quite. Builder takes a context. And let me just look up the signature for the future builder again. Okay. Right. And this what I'm doing right now is something you'll have to get used to while I'm coding in Flutter. You might you'll be using parts of the Flutter API or the SDK you're not sure about. Remember, Flutter is fully open source. You can go right in, you can look at the source for pretty much everything that's going on. So you're never really lost. You'll always have some idea of what it is you need to be doing. All right. So I think we got it now. All right, so it takes a context and something that we call the snapshot, which represents the data from the future. All right. So what we want to do now, so at this point we want to check if our future has data. So we do that by saying if the snapshot, and it has a convenience method called has data. All right, so for now, just to test, we can just return what can we do? We'll just return some text. Let's say data found. And if there's an error from the call, we'll say if snapshot.has error, then we can return what the actual error message is. That should be, we can get a snapshot.error. Oh, we need to fill this in. Something's a bit off right here. Oh no, of course. Needs to be a text widget. And I think we need to have another return here. Use a circular purpose indicator for now. All right, so let's run this. Type string is not a subtype of type datetime. So let's look at that. We should actually expect that because in our parsing code in the curfew data, we're actually parsing these as strings. But remember, the actual data type for start time and end times are actually Dart time objects. So we need to do a small modification here. So ID, or well, start time needs to be datetime.parse, and we'll take in this. And the same thing here. Datetime dot parse. And we're all set. Let's try that again. Okay, so we found data. So now good. So we're getting some data from our repository call. When this call is finished, let's actually see if we can go into actually displaying some of this data on the screen. All right, so now instead of us doing something as basic as return text data found, let us return a list view. And actually, we'll use the list view that builder constructor, since we have since we're using quite a long list, 10 in this case. Now, list view dot builder takes an item builder parameter as well as an item count, which can be important to the Flutter framework in terms of how it's going to lay out the amount of items. So let's get the item count, and we can get that from snapshot.length, snapshot.data. I think we'll have to do a null check right here. Dot length. Good. And for the item builder, what we'll want, we need a build context as well as an index as it iterates over that list. And then we want let's use a list style. Return. Nope, something's wrong there. No, we need to open that. Good. We return a list tile. For each of them. I know list styles have a title and a subtitle. So let's say for the title, we can say we'll make it text, brackets, and so we want to get some of the data from the snapshot at that particular index. So we're going to be using our text interpolation with a $sign, and this is going to be snapshot.data. Make sure it's a null check at the index. And we want the start time parameter. All right. Good. And what's happening here? Do we need, I think we need a comma? Or is it a semicolon? This looks like we need another one of these. Not quite. Yeah, this is one of the annoying things of Flutter trying to keep. Who was saying they hated braces? That was you, Andrew?
What's that?
You were the one who was saying that you hated braces.
Yeah,
because one of the things that because Flutter is all about nested widgets while you're building up the widget tree, sometimes it becomes a pain to pretty much keep track of where one block starts and one finishes. As an aside, Swift UI, which was Apple's response to Flutter, in terms of how you lay out UIs, it has a very neat thing called a neat way where you can do. You're composing UIs in the same way you're doing in Flutter, but you won't see all these different layers of indentation. It's more a flat tree, and there actually there are calls now for Flutter to pretty much emulate that approach. It wouldn't get rid. You would still have the choice to do it like this, but you could create some extension methods on your widgets that would allow you to say, instead of having all of these nested widgets, you could just pretty much it would more look like method chaining in traditional languages.
Okay.
Context, so list that ends there. Good. And then I think, is this one needed? That's the question, yes. And I think sometimes the Flutter tooling needs to improve. There we go. All right, so let's run this back. All right, so we have some data on our screen right now. So what's happening here is that when once the app loads, the future builder executes the future get curfew data, when it's completed, it's going through each of the through that list of curfew data objects and displaying the start time. Well, I mean, I'm not gonna leave well enough alone. Let's see, we also have an end time to them. Let's take a look at that. So let's duplicate this line here. List style can take a title as well as a subtitle. And so here we'll want to see what the end time looks like. Let's just put that in there and rerun it. So for all of our curfew objects, we're seeing the start times and the end times. Every time I say end times, it reminds me of growing up in church as a boy and they're talking about the end times and Revelation and who is going to heaven and hell. Yeah. Alden, you look like you know about that, man. Yeah. Yeah. You look like a deacon or an elder. Which one?
Either.
Huh?
I'm gonna be the police officer that's going to lock you up when you break the curfew.
Listen, it got well. I can't say this on a recorded podcast. But let's just say that I was outside. I was outside. I can't tell you that much. Yeah, that night on Spanish Town Road, that was something else. But anyway, so here we have them in a list there. So we're seeing the start times and the end times. Our dates here in ISO 8601 format pretty much as returned from our API. It looks a bit basic though. Let's see if we can do just a little bit more, not much, just like neat it up.
So Oswald, we're gonna just allow you to complete that thought, but we actually do want to go through some questions that we have in the chat and little discussions side when you finish.
Yeah, man, let's do that. All right, so let's go through the questions. Okay. All right, let me start from the top. Okay. Namespace, good. All right, Stephen, you're asking a question about doesn't that hurt readability? Can you go into that a bit more for me?
Oh, I believe that question was actually posted when we were talking about the brackets, the menu brackets.
Right. I see. You know, I'm of two minds about it. I mean, we as programmers, we always have this debate about what constitutes readable code. And from what I've seen this is probably now about 20 years of programming, readable code is code that you're used to reading. You understand? There are people who program in Lisp that is all brackets all the way down. They're used to it. I've seen some weird languages using financial services like I think is one called there's a language called K that is very weird. But if you're used to it, I guess you'll be able to read it. My background is mostly as a Python programmer, so I'm used to just working directly off indentation without no brackets and braces and all of that good stuff. So I think in most cases, once you're used to something, you'll be able to read it. I think there's this quote about we read best what we read most. So I think a lot of people nowadays are JavaScript programmers, so they're pretty much used to the whole matter of the braces and the curly braces and getting a hold of it. And I mean, yeah, as I said, as a lifelong Python programmer, it was an adjustment getting used to the braces, but over time, it worked, and I got used to it. Any more questions? Kamari, I see you raise your hand.
Yeah, man. I was just going to mention that, like in VS Code, someone created an extension. Don't remember what it's called. I think it's called Black, where it basically allows you to, once you click at a section, it highlights that entire block. So it kind of shows exactly where you are at all times. You don't have to rely solely on the curly brackets. So I use that sometime to help.
Okay. Can you find the link on the VS Code Marketplace and post in the chat for us?
Not at my. I'll try.
Yeah, man. I'd appreciate that.
Comment or something.
Okay, perfect. I think Android Studio does something similar. So it has these vertical and horizontal lines. So for example, so we can say for the body widget, we can see where it starts, and then highlights here to the children, and from the child, which is a future builder, it's showing the different things. And if you click into a parameter, it will show you in highlighting blue the things that are at that same level as well. And I've been taking shots all night. It's time for me to give some shots now. This VS Code business. You're going to download VS Code and you're going to say, oh, it's such a lightweight IDE, da 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 da. But you're gonna have to download a ton of extensions either way. By the time you're done, you're not back at Android Studio. Come on, tell the truth.
No. I hate Android Studio. It's too heavy. It's too heavy for it. I was using Dell XPS, and it's too much. We just put the code just come up when I call it. It's easy, and there's a ton of extensions that actually does more than what Android Studio offers.
You sure about that?
Even in the creation of the constructor and the other methods, I think there's a snippet. I'm not sure if that's a snippet or it's a linter, but once you just create the properties for the class, the properties, and you over them, there's an option to generate the code, and it generates everything. The from JSON to JSON, to strings, even the hash at the bottom. You have the equate table.
Right, hash code, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it does all of that for you. So I like it.
Android Studio has plugins for all that too. Like, let's be clear.
But it's already heavy, and then you're going to add new other plugins onto it.
So here's a real question. If you're lifting weights, is 50 pounds heavy? Or it depends on how strong you are?
You're using your Mac is crumbling right now, so
should be the one. My gosh. All out of popcorn.
Is it really crumbling?
We're not at the issues with the Macs. I don't think you're the one who's supposed to be having this argument.
Wow. You see, this how I get myself in a problem. I go style the VS Code man them, and the man them take it and flip it for me. I saw an idea me that night, yeah? Oh, God.
VS Code is
I can't really even drop into this one because I don't use either. So just let y'all go on.
You still like use Vi and Emacs and them something, right, Andrew?
Straight Emacs.
Oh, God.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah. You're not missing out. You're not missing out. So in fact, guys, the only thing Kamari said about Emacs is that the old joke about Emacs is that it's a great operating system. Too bad it doesn't have a decent text editor.
Oh, yeah, I hear that.
Don't old.
Right now, the text editor turned up because for me, I have LSP installed. So I have LSP server doing all of my tech stuff, doing the linting and all of that for my projects. So I'm cool. So I have the operating system and the text editor.
The language server processor.
So it sounds like we're going to need to have a panel discussion at some other meeting about what is the best best thing to code in. All right, no problem. Thanks for that idea, guys. But is there any other question on REST APIs and Flutter?
While the questions come in, let me just do a quick thing here. I'm going to wrap these list styles in cards. Let me wrap it with a widget here, so it looks a little bit better. Wrap with widget. So let's see. This is the material card. That should make it look just a wee bit better. And we can also make changes to the card, the elevation, the color, and so on. I have to apologize about the technical difficulties because there's a lot more that I wanted to go through too. Maybe I'll probably have to do like a part 2 or maybe an addendum. I'll speak with Shane and Alden about it. It might be live, it might be recorded, but so some of the things we'll be looking at is that. So, for example, in a production app, so you have we have here the URLs hard coded into the into your repository. Now, for the vast majority of apps, you're going to have different environments. You'll have your dev environment, QA, staging, and production. Now, some people take an approach of, for example, you might have multiple different actual file system files pointing to a different environment. But I think a better way is to actually pass them in as environmental variables using a thing called Dart define. So what that looks like, if we go into our edit configurations, you could put in run arguments here to say, so for example, we could put in something like, dash dart dash define curfew data URL equals, and the actual URL right there. And then you could create different profiles here. So this we have a main profile. You could create different profiles for staging, for production, for dev, and so on. And then Dart has a thing called string from environment that you would use to pretty much capture those things that were passed in. So for example, in production level apps, you'll see things like so URLs will be passed in there. Sometimes the API keys or some things can be passed in there from like a key vault from a cloud environment and stuff like that. Another thing is that in this case, we use the HTTP package. But there's another very popular package within the Flutter ecosystem called DIO, D-I-O. That is pretty much a lot more full featured. So DIO does things as it can do automatic retries, and then DIO itself is a package. It has its own ecosystem. So pretty much, you actually have plugins for DIO, certain things called interceptors. If you're used to middleware from other ecosystems, it's pretty much the same thing. So it can pretty much print out the network requests and responses in the console, and it's formatted nice and pretty that you can see it. So things like that you want to see. Earlier, I had mentioned tools like JSON annotation and JSON serializer that would pretty much generate all those the from JSON to JSON methods for you. Or I think who was it, Kamar, who just told us about that VS Code extension that will do it for you as well. So there is there's a lot that you can go into in terms of how you're dealing with APIs. There's also the issue of caching, like an offline access in terms of what do you do when the network is down. So all pretty much there's a lot there. For those of you who've used Firebase before, Firebase does offer some amount of caching and offline access pretty much out of the box that you can take advantage of. I'll be honest, the Firebase package for Flutter is called Flutter Fire. It's pretty good, but it does have some rough edges at times. Sometimes setting it up can be a pain. It's gotten a bit better over the last few months actually, but it might take a bit of time to set up. But yeah, so pretty much what we covered here was just pretty much using the basic HTTP package to make requests. You parse that request into a Dart object, and then displaying the contents of those objects into data on your screen. Of course, we wouldn't of course leave our app like this. No one wants to open an app and see, okay, 2023-07-04 2200 hours. There is a package in Dart, the local package, that you could pretty much take these objects, these daytime objects, like start time and end time, and you could parse them out to know what day of the week it was. So we could actually use it to display, so, okay, July 4th is going to be a Tuesday, and then we could parse 2200 to be 10 p.m. and the 0500 to be 5 a.m. on the next day, things like that. So there is a whole lot more we can go into, but unfortunately my Mac failed me today and we weren't able to go out of that. But I do but with the blessing of O'Shane, I'll have a makeup session for you guys where we can go into a bit more with all of that. Any more questions?
No, so far I'm not seeing any in the chat. Yes, we are good.
Well, I have a quick question for the audience, not you. Just want to get a feel of from you guys. Like if there's like any topic, if we supposed to keep another Flutter session apart from the Flutter testing session, if there's any topics you guys want us to cover, or things you would want us to, add to that additional session? Because again, at the end of the day, we are we are here about to learn and so forth, and there might be like this burning thing you want to see in Flutter. So I kind of want to know if there's anything you want us to touch on.
Platform channels.
Generative AI. Okay. There you go.
Platform
Alright.
channels is killing me right now.
Platform channels.
Well, not the platform channels itself, but I guess it's kind of my fault. But because the way I have myself set up, as I say, I don't use either VS Code or Android Studio. So I have problems setting up my Gradle files. So maybe not necessarily platform channels, but like debugging Gradle issues, and maybe whatever the iOS equivalent is. I don't know.
Okay. What are the Gradle issues you're having?
Well, it's a bit since I touched that project, so I'd have to kind of go back in and look at it. It's been a while. Yeah, the Gradle stuff is kind of killing me, and I haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah, Gradle can get very hairy, like most things coming from that Java ecosystem.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So yeah, we can take a look at that. So that's one. Coding with generative AI, and I guess Copilot can come in there. Not necessarily a fan of generative AI because I've seen people use it in their coding project, and it caused a lot of bugs. I mean, I've seen
Call
where
him.
I'm not going to, and you know who I'm talking, because we were reviewing the code. I'm not going to call any names. But it's a matter of, developing something which, and you don't look over what the AI generated and assume that, oh, it works. Yeah, it does works, but for example, like certain conditions weren't met at the AI created, put pretty much, instead of it do a if check if a variable was created or a particular data is present, it just assumed that the variable was declared and the data is present, which caused an error. And then there's no like error angling around the code and so forth. So and then like the type of like RESTful response, like old school way where people would say status equal truth in like a RESTful response, instead of something like you get the status and then you get like, or like error success or something more descriptive for the status message. So like again, if it works for some, it works, but it's not. I'm not a big
You have to
fan
embrace it,
of it as yet.
Oshin.
Well,
No, man, I say, for remain competitive, everybody have to embrace AI. So what happens is that I understand that sometimes how it writes code is a bit old school or old style, as I said a while ago. But there are actually other AI tools that persons are creating to lint and actually improve on that. So for me, it's about securing our industry in terms of remaining relevant.
It's funny that you mentioned secure in because, well, the way you mentioned security also a different context, but security is also another reason why I'm not necessarily a fan of Copilot, especially when you're working with financial applications and like business critical application, because as you know, it, read the source code, analyze it, and sometimes put that in the, compare that with the public space. But like this is a big debate that's actually going on. And I noticed that someone had their hand up, so I kind
Right,
of want to
yeah.
also
Mhm.
give that person a chance to talk. Ryan,
Oh, yes. There's a suggestion for the Flutter. Next time you can probably do a small, like a shopping cart application. Just a small example. Next time, there's a suggestion.
okay. Thank you, Brian. Just also indicating that apart from the photo testing session, we are also planning to do a physical workshop. So we could probably do a physical workshop on building a shopping cart application. So yeah, the workshop, physical workshop, we haven't planned it as in where it's going to be kept, but it should be sometime in August, September, and we'll keep the community updated once we finalize the location and the time, date and time.
All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you for the suggestion, Ryan. Alden is going to take over and wrap up. If the or anyone have any additional questions before we start the wrapping up process?
I actually do. Who's Ray Charles in the participant list? I'm quite curious. There's a Ray Charles here.
Seriously.
I am.
Behave.
Well, so Ray Charles tell us that his mic is not working, so I guess we'll
Okay.
have to meet Ray Charles some other time.
Not a problem.
He says he's listening, so so let me just
Might not working, but he's listening.
yeah. So let me just say a big thank you to us for your presentation. You know, despite the challenges you pushed through to let us see how it is that we could have a API interacting with Flutter. And of course, I'd like to thank you guys, our participants, for just being present. And hopefully you guys had an opportunity to learn something and you know, grow a network as we essentially hopefully become, you know, a great producer of technology and not necessarily a consumer. I'm talking about the Caribbean as a whole. One of the events that would be coming up soon would be a career day with company in St. Lucia. So for those persons who would be interested in working remotely, that would be a good opportunity to stay close to your emails, you know, joining the community and getting updates on our events and so on. And of course, if there's anything that you'd like to, any way that you'd like to contact us, or email is shared, you can also, you know, check out our information on meetup.com. So, you know, get in contact with us, get involved, let us grow our impact on the world, because I'm sure Jamaica, the Caribbean as a whole, we have something to offer as it relates to technology. All right. So blessings, guys. And thanks again for coming.